This episode is about the number 18 team on the Juggernaut Index, the Detroit Lions. It would be fair to say that the Lions have struggled a bit over the past decade. In 5 of the past 10 years, this team has finished with 3 wins or less. Detroit's record is 42-118 during that stretch, and the team's total point differential is minus 1,325. No, that's not a misprint. Over the past 10 seasons, the Detroit Lions have been outscored by 1,225 points. And we probably don't need to remind you that this team was off the charts bad in 2008 and 2009, winning just twice in 32 attempts. The average score of a Lions game over the past 2 years, 31.6 to 16.6. So, yikes. Makes you wonder why the man pictured above is smiling. Could be the chemicals in the face paint, or the tight headband, or perhaps he's recalling a favorite moment from the Eric Hipple years, or just maybe he's feeling optimistic about his team's offensive firepower in 2010. The NFL is a league where teams can flip trends easily, and players rewrite the scouting reports each season. Ignore the lines at your own peril, fantasy owner. There is talent in Detroit. This team has improved the receiver core, the backfield, the offensive line. They appear to be built for shootouts, a necessity in today's NFC North. And they have a rifle-armed young quarterback at the controls. And also, for the first time in forever, the Lions will actually have their head coach and both coordinators return. Detroit fans have grown accustomed to regime change, not stability and consistency. But this appears to be the beginning of a new era. I'm not going to make any predictions about wins, but if Detroit's skill players can stay healthy, huge if, obviously, this team will improve by 6 points and 50 yards per game. Of course, any significant improvement on the offense has to be led by Matthew Stafford, which means he'll need to make a leap in his second season. Stafford has a terrific arm capable of completing any throw in the playbook, but his rookie year was full of misfires with 53.3 completion percentage and bad reads, 20 interceptions. He missed 6 games due to knee and shoulder injuries, so durability is a concern. You'll recall, however, that he sat in the final 2 to 3 weeks only because the franchise didn't want to take any unnecessary risks with its $72 million quarterback. At Stafford's current mock draft central ADP of 125.6, you're almost guaranteed a profit. He's drafted as a low-end backup QB, yet his setup is excellent. In fact, if you compare Stafford's talent, his resume, receivers, his team's run-pass mix to Kevin Kolb, it's tough to justify the 46-pick difference in ADPs. If you're planning to draft an unproven quarterback, at least find yourself a potential bargain. The most dangerous weapon in Detroit's receiver corps is Calvin Johnson, who also happens to be one of the most physically gifted receivers in NFL history. Johnson's combination of size, speed, leaping ability, sure-handedness, and body control are almost unrivaled. Nonetheless, he was a fantasy disappointment in 2009 as he dealt with a knee injury of unknown severity, and he was absolutely swarmed by opposing DBs on every route. The 09 Lions didn't have another receiver threat on the roster who demanded attention. Bryant Johnson apparently doesn't intimidate anymore. It's a frustrating year for Megatron, to say the least, but his ceiling remains as high as any receiver's. Johnson's 2010 outlook improved after Detroit acquired Nate Burleson and Tony Scheffler during the offseason. Those two aren't ranked particularly high for fantasy purposes, but they're both credible NFL talents. They'll cause defenses to divert resources away from Megatron control, so that's a win. Brandon Pettigrew has returned from last year's knee injury, though he may always be a more valuable tight end in reality than fantasy. He's a stellar blocker, but Scheffler should see more targets. If there's a sleeper among the Lions receivers, it could be Derek Williams, a third-round pick in 2009. He lined up all over the field at Penn State, and he always seemed to find the end zone against Iowa, which is probably why I've mentioned him. Williams was relegated mostly to kick return duty in the rookie campaign, but long-term, he's a slot receiver with potential. The Lions' ground game hasn't produced a 1,000-yard runner since Kevin Jones in 2004, but Javid Best has a legitimate chance to eclipse that as a rookie. Best is a ridiculously elusive back with exceptional speed. His 4.35 40 time was tops at his position at the combine. He's a skilled receiver who projects as a PPR star, and there's a small rookie year discount at the draft table too, ADP of 38.3. The worry with Best is health, not skill. He dealt with a medley of injuries while at Cal: concussion, foot, elbow, hip, and he doesn't have quite workhorse size, 5'10", 195. Still, he has a rare talent worth an early pick. There's no such thing as an injury-proof player in our game, so don't let the medical chart scare you off. The Lions' run blocking should improve a bit this season following the addition of left guard Rob Sims via trade. Running back Kevin Smith is recovering from ACL surgery, so he'll be limited to one practice per day in camp. At this stage, he's looking like a handcuff, not a major threat to Best's workload. If you start seeing a lot of Maurice Morris or Aaron Brown, then you'll know that something has gone horribly wrong. And speaking of horribly wrong, the Lions' defense ranked dead last in the NFL last year in both yards with 392.1 and points allowed 30.9. The line generated very little pressure with 26 sacks, and the secondary was brutal. You can't accuse the team of failing to address its weaknesses, however. They replaced 3/4 of the defensive line. Detroit selected defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh at the number 2 overall pick, and it's tough to imagine him being anything less than a multi-year Pro Bowler. Again, we refer you to the film room. The Lions further enhanced their line by adding Kyle Vanden Bosch and Corey Williams. If you're looking for an IDP on this team, target free safety Louis Delmas and middle linebacker DeAndre Levy. Then, hope for the best.